Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 15 in our incredible new tutorial series where you're learning how to think like an engineer using the Arduino Uno R4 Wi-Fi. What I will need you to do is pour yourself a nice tall glass of ice cold coffee. That would be straight up black coffee poured over ice, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Sunfounder. Sunfounder is actually sponsoring this most excellent series of video lessons. And in this class, we will be using the Sunfounder Elite Explorer Kit. Now, hopefully most of you guys already have your gear, but if you don't, look down in the description. There is a link over to Amazon. You can hop on over there and pick your kit up. And believe me, your life and my life are going to be a whole lot easier if we are working on identical hardware. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and talk about what I am going to teach you today. I'm going to show you my solution to the homework assignment that I gave you in lesson number 14. But I must first ask, were you successful? If you were successful with the homework, leave a comment down below. I am legend. Double chest bump. And if you were not successful, leave a comment down below. I folded up like a cheap Walmart lawn chair. Okay. Now, hopefully you were able to get it because I was really just combining a lot of the stuff that we had learned in earlier lessons. What I'm trying to do is reinforce the learning. Something that I teach in an earlier lesson, I want you to apply it in the next lesson so it really begins to stick in, really begins to sink in, and you're not just sort of just sitting and mindlessly doing what you see me doing. I want you to really understand it. Okay, what was the assignment? The assignment was to control the brightness of an LED by getting input from the user on the serial monitor. And again, we showed you how to do each one of those small things. Now we're going to put them together. Even if you were successful, still watch the homework assignment because I want you to see how I'm doing it because I really want it to work well. And by working well, I mean I want it to smoothly turn up brightness sort of evenly throughout the whole range of the numbers that you input in the serial monitor. Remember, you were supposed to go from 0 to 10. 0 was off and 10 was full brightness, and each number between 0 and 10 was supposed to smoothly increase the perceivable brightness. And so we'll talk a little about that as we get into it. But let's jump over here to our circuit view, and let me get out of your way and have a sip of coffee. Okay, so we'll do this. Circuit's real easy. We've done it for the last 4 or 5 lessons, so I'm going to go through this a little bit quicker. You need your red LED. Remember, blue LED are only for special occasions, so we're going to use the red one today. And we have a 1,000 ohm resistor and we have a couple of wires. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that long leg of the LED up. Okay, it is pointing in the up direction. Okay, that being the up direction. Now I'm going to come and I'm going to bring a control signal to this. So I'm going to go in the same column as the long leg of the LED, same column as the long leg of the LED. And then we're going to come over here to, let's see, what do we want to do? How about pin 9? Is that pin 9? No, I think I missed it. Let me look to the side here. Yeah, I missed it. We'll come over here to pin 9. There. You see, I got that now. You can see I have a little tape under this to try to hold it in place a little bit better. Then we've got the short leg of the LED here, and we're going to get our 1,000 ohm resistor, and we are going to put one leg of it in the same column as the short leg of the LED. So the short leg of the LED is going to be plugged into the same column as one of the legs of the resistor. And then the other leg of the resistor will just drop down here in a convenient spot. Notice that I cut those long legs off the resistor so that they make a little bit neater circuit build. Now I come to that other leg of the resistor, and I got to bring this thing on back home, and I do that by coming back to a ground pin. Yep, want to make sure I didn't put it in the old 5-volt pin. That would not be good. Okay, so there we are. We are hooked up. Okay, now we've got to think a little bit about how to do this. So what are we going to have? We're going to have a number between 0 and 10. Okay, we're going to have a number between 0 and 10. And if you just increased linearly, right, we're going to get that number from the user, from the serial monitor. We know how to do that. Now, if we just increase linearly from 0 to 10, you might think, well, our write voltage is going to go from 0 to 255, so we might start by writing a 0. If 0 is input, a 1 would be 25, a 2 would be 50, a 3 would be 75, and just sort of step up in about 25 increments, and then up to a 10 would be 255, right? 255 divided by 10 is about 25. You could have 25 increments that you applied to your analog rate. Now, what's the problem with that? The difference between 0 and 25 is huge, okay? But the difference between 25 and the difference between 225 and 255, that is going to be barely perceivable because it's already really bright, so you're not going to be able to see that. So do we want to increase that write value? Do we want to increase that analog write linearly? No, we want to increase it exponentially. So with each increment, we want to sort of double the write value. Okay, so how would we do that? Let's come over here, and we really talked about this last time, but I want to go through it again because I think it's something that is really important. So do I want to do increments like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 linearly? No, I don't. With each increment of brightness, I want to sort of double the signal that I'm sending to the LED. So really what I want it to go something like this, like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, and 256. Now, I understand we can't go to 256. We'll go to 255, but we'll take care of that later. The math is easier if we just say, okay, we're going to go from 1 to 256. Okay, well, how would we do that? What is 1? 1 is 2 raised to the 0. Okay, and look it up. Any number raised to the 0 is a 1. Okay, a little bit counterintuitive, but that is the fact. Now, 2 raised to the 1, that's 2 by itself. That would be 2. What is 2 raised to the 2? That's 4. 2 raised to the 3 is 8. 2 raised to the 4 is 16. 2 raised to the 5 is 32. That is just a terrible 5. Let me try that again. 2 raised to the 5, that is not good either. I'm getting obsessive compulsive here. I've got to just move on with it. Perfect 5. Okay, 2 raised to the 6th is 64. 2 raised to the 7th is 128. And 2 raised to the 8 is 256. If you don't believe me, go put it in your calculator. Okay, so that is what we have. Now, what signal do we want to what signal do we want to therefore send to the LED? Well, we want the write value. I'll just call it WV, to be 2 raised to some exponent. Okay, 2 raised to some exponent. Well, now, if I'd told you to go from the brightness to be from 0 to 8, that would be easy. Why would that be easy? Because 8 would correspond to 256, and then I could just go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it would have all worked out. But what did I tell you to do? I told you to go from 0 being off to 10 being full brightness. So I can't just say write value is 2 raised to the user input, okay, because 2 to the 10th would be way more than 256. That's not going to work. So what do I have to do? I have to do a little math. So what I need to do is I need to come in and I'm going to have some user, what is this? I'm going to have some user input, and that is going to go between 0 to 10. It's going to go from 0 to 10. Now, what do I need to calculate? I need to calculate an XP. So what I can see is the XP, it needs to go, the exponent, it needs to go from 0 to 8, because 2 to the 8 is 256. And again, we want 255. We'll take care of that later, but just hang in there with me. Hang in there with me. So what do I have? I'm going to have UI. What do I need? I need XP. And then that XP will be plugged in here. And then from that, I can get right value. Okay, so what do I have? Well, let's go in, and who is your friend? Mr. Line. So let's create a point. If my user input, if my user says they want a brightness of 0, what right value would I want? I would want a right value of 0. I would want it to be off. Again, we're going to have to subtract 1 in a minute, but just hang in there with me. Now, what else do we know? What's the largest number that the user would put in? The largest number that the user would put in would be 10. And if he puts in a 10, what do I want the XP to be? I want it to be an 8. Because if the XP is 8, then 2 to the 8th will give me a right value of 256. Does that make sense? So what do I need? I need the equation of a line with with these 2 points, an equation of a line with these 2 points. Well, m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, like that, okay? And now y2 is 8 minus 0 over x2, which is 10 minus 0. And so m is equal to what? 8 over 10. M is equal to 8 over 10. Does that make sense? Okay, now we need an equation of the line. Y minus y1 is equal to m onto x minus x1. And y1 is 0, so I just end up with y is equal to m, which is 8 over 10, times x minus x1, which is 0. And so what do I have? I have y is equal to 8 divided by 10 times x. Now let's put in our variables. What is y? Y that we're trying to calculate is this xp up here. So what do I say? XP is equal to 8 over 10 of x. And what was x? That's the number. That is the number that the user gave me. That is user input. So the exponent xp is 8 divided by 10 times the user interface, the user input. Okay, now, is it that I want xp? No, what do I really want? I really want right val, and I'll go ahead and write it out. So right val is equal to, right? We already got that equation there. 2 raised to the xp, and what is xp? It is 8 divided by 10 times the user input, like that. Okay, so I'm going to say, what brightness do you want? He's going to say 10. 10 is going to go into UI. 10 divided by 10 is 1 times 8 is 8. Okay, 2 to the 8 is what? It's 256. Now, what did I really want? Right val. What I really wanted was 255. So I have to subtract 1. Also, if he input 0, up here, 2 to the 0 is 1, but 0 should be off. So what do I want? I want 1 to go to 0. So in both cases, what do I want on this equation? This whole equation, I'm going to subtract 1. And then everything should work. So now what does that mean? Each increment, as I go from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 to 10, each time, with each increment, the brightness of the LED, the right value is going to double. but to our eye, it's going to look nice and linear. Now, I hope that makes sense. Let's jump in and see if we can get this thing coded up now. I think that was the hard part right there. That's the hard part behind us. But this is really very similar to what we did in that last dimmable LED with the potentiometer, but I want to do it again because I want you to see how you can begin to become comfortable with the exponents. So let's hop on over here. We have got our circuit hooked up. We are going to come in and we are going to open up. We are going to go to examples. We're going to go to basics and you're going to open bare minimum. Now we're always going to check and make sure that we are connected to our board. Our board for me is COM5 because that says Arduino Uno R4 Wi-Fi. You might not be COM5. You pick the COM that the Arduino shows up on. For me, it's COM5. Okay, now we're going to come up here and we're going to jump in and we're going to start doing a few things. Okay, so let's define our variables. Well, first of all, I'm going to have the integer, the user input, right? What brightness does he want? So instead of user interface, let's call that bright. Okay, the brightness, because that's actually what it is. That is the brightness that they want. Okay. We did the math with UI, so let's call it UI. So UI is the user input. That is the brightness that they want. And we're not going to put a value in. We're just going to declare it because we will get UI. We will get the value of it from the user. Okay. Now, what else do we need? Well, we're going to change that UI into a what? Write val. And that's what we're going to send to the LED. And we will calculate that from UI, so we're not going to put anything in there. Now we're going to be talking to the LED, so we better set up a pin. So I'm going to say int, and it is going to be red pin. And then we're going to give it a value. And I always like to be very careful to make sure that I am putting the right one in. And what did we say that was on pin 9? So the red pin is pin 9. That looks good. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and set up our baud rate, right? So the baud rate is going to be 9600, like that. Let's put in a little bit of a delay. So I'm going to put in an int. I'm going to put a wait time is equal to 100 milliseconds. That's 1/10 of a second. And then also, we're going to get input from the user, so we're going to have to what? Ask, wait, read. To ask, we have to print a prompt to them. And so let's go ahead and set that prompt up here. I know I've been bad about putting them down below, but let's go ahead and set up the prompt here. So I'll just call it prompt. You can call yours whatever you want, but I'm going to say prompt. And then that's going to be equal to, it's a what? A string. So I put it in double quotes. Please, I like to be polite. I think that these Arduino programs, they should be polite with the user. Please input desired brightness, and then I'm going to prompt him. It needs to be 0 to 10, like that. Okay, that looks good. 0 to 10, close that, close the quote, Mr. Semicolon. Okay, so now I think most of that is set up. So now we're going to come here and we're going to be getting values from the user from the serial monitor. So I better initialize the serial port in the serial monitor with a serial.begin 9600. No. We don't use constants. We use what? Our variable, which was BR. Okay. That looks good. So we have set that up. Now we're going to come down to the void loop. Now what are we going to do in the void loop? We're going to get input from the user. We're going to get input from the user. Okay. And then we are going to change that user input into a write val, and then we're going to analog write that write val. So if we're going to get input from the user, what 3 things do we have to do? Ask, wait, read. So let's ask serial.println, and then I've already made my prompt. So I just got to put the prompt in there. Okay. And then it will ask them for the brightness. Now, what do we do? Ask, wait. How do we wait? We make a while loop, and then we put a condition. We wait as long as what's in those parentheses are true. And what are we looking for? Serial.available. Serial.available. As long as that equals 0, that means that there is nothing there. And if there is nothing there, then what do we want to do? We want to wait. So we just create a clause. I'm going to open a curly, and then it goes ahead and closes that curly for me. And then I'm going to click enter. I just like to have it where I can see it a little better. Okay, if you didn't hit that return and you just said open closed, it's still going to work. But I have a clause between the open and close curly. And what happens in that clause? Absolutely nothing, but it just sits and loops as long as there's no data in serial.available. Okay, talked about that last time, so I hope that's starting to make sense now. So we have ask, we wait. Now what do? We read. And so now we are going to say, and what did we call that? We called that UI for user input. UI, user input, is going to be equal to what? Analog read. And what do I analog read? No, we don't analog read. What are you thinking? We don't analog read. Tell me what we do. We get it from the serial.parse int, and then an open close like that. Serial parse int, open close. Now I have UI. Now I have to calculate the right value using this equation here. I have to use this equation here. And we learned how to do powers in the last few lessons, okay? So now what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to get back over here where you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to calculate right val. Now let's make sure we declared right val yet. I always just like to make sure that I'm writing the variable name down right. Right val is going to be equal to, if we look at that equation, it's a power, right? We're doing a power, so it's going to be POW to do the power, and we're going to raise what number to a power? Remember, we were raising 2. And then what were we going to raise it to? Well, it was going to be 8 divided by 10, okay? 8 divided by 10. Now I close that parenthesis, times what? Times UI. Okay. Now my parentheses look right there, and now I close the open 8 divided by 10 close. Now I still got to close that power, that POW. So that looks right. 8 divided by 10 times UI. I'm not going to deliberately make this mistake again, but 8 divided by 10 is what? It is 0.8, and 8 is an integer, 10 is an integer, and 0.8 is a float. And so integer divided by integer is going to give you an integer. It would drop it to 0 and your program wouldn't work. So we're going to put an 8 point and a 10 point, and then that would be a floating 0.8, and everything's going to work great. And then remember, we have to subtract 1. So 256 goes to 255, which we want, and 1 goes to 0, which we want, and now it should work on all ranges. So that looks pretty darn good. So that is the right val. Okay, now what do? We need to analog write that. Where are we going to write it? To the red pen. And then what are we going to write? We're going to write val like that, and then like that. Okay. Now, I probably made some mistakes in here. You guys probably saw them, but let's go ahead and run it and just see what we end up with. And let's see here. I got to resize this a little bit. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so I think you can see everything there. So now let's run this thing, and we're hoping for no ugly oh, that ugly orange. Serial.println prompt. What is that? Prompt. We've got to spell right. P-R-O-M-P-T. You could spell it either way, but you just got to do it the same in both places. Okay, so it's running. Done compiling, no little ugly orange business. And now it's downloading and boom. Okay, so now what do I need to do? I need to turn on the serial monitor here. Now, why am I not seeing a prompt? I'm not seeing a prompt because when it sent the prompt, the serial monitor was not open, so it had no place to go to. So I'm going to come over here and press this happy little button and it'll start the program again. Okay. Now, if I type in 0, what do I expect? Well, if I type in 0, 0 should be off, and so the LED should not come on. So I'm going to type in 0, okay, and boom, the good news is the LED did not come on. Well, what if I type in 1? Okay, I'm going to type in 1 and click enter, and I really can't see that that came on. I really can't see that that came on. Well, let's see, what if I put in a 10? What if I put in a 10? Okay. And let's hit enter. Okay. So I put in a 10. Okay, it came on, but darn, you know, it's not very bright. It's kind of dim for a 10. That's not full brightness. And so what should I do? Well, let's first of all look and see what write val is. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to try to debug this. And if you guys see my mistake, go ahead and leave a comment, because maybe some of you guys saw it as I went through this, but there's something definitely wrong with my program. And if you caught it, leave a comment, but I'll show you how to debug this. Well, the first thing I want to know is serial.println, what is write val? I might have read UI wrong. I might have calculated write val wrong. There's so many things that could have gone wrong. So I'm going to print write val, and I'm going to see if I'm getting numbers that I would expect. Okay, so I'm going to download that. Okay, that looks good. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, if I have a 0, all right, what does it say? It says the write val is 0, which is what we would want. Well, what if I say the brightness is 10? What is the write val? It says 255. That looks good. Well, what if I said 9? It should be about half of 255, I think, and 146. That's pretty good. Let's say that I did a 2. Okay, a 2 becomes a 2. So you see, this is really, I think, looking pretty good. So I think this is really looking pretty good. So what else could be wrong? Well, one thing that could be wrong is, am I on the right pin? I said pin 9, and I look here, yeah, I'm connected to pin 9. The other thing is, does pin 9 have a squiggly? Yes, pin 9 has a squiggly. What is the other thing? What did I forget in the void setup? Who is your friend? Pin mode. And what did I not do? I didn't say that red pin was an output. Okay, and because of that, I did not get very bright numbers. And so if you do not do your pin modes, those pins are going to behave in unexpected ways. Those pins are going to behave in unexpected ways. So you've got to do your pin modes. Okay, so let's run this again. And there it goes. Okay, now let's try it. So let's try again. I'm going to put in a 0. Okay, and 0 is off. I'm going to put in a 1. Okay, and then with a 1 still stays at 0. So a 1, why would that be? Well, 2 raised to the 0.8 minus 1, it still doesn't get to 1. So that kind of makes sense. I'm hoping here pretty soon I will see a number. So I'm going to put in 2. Okay, and with 2, I get 2. That looks good. And what do I see here at 2? I can see the LED came on. Then I'm going to go 3. Okay, and I saw it come up in brightness a little bit. I'm going to go 4, perceivably brighter. Okay, 5. Okay, you guys could see that. 6, saw that. 7, saw that. 8, saw that. 9, saw that. And now 10, let's look at 10. boom, saw that full brightness. So what did you see? You saw a perceptible increase in brightness all the way from 0 to 10 because we did the math to match how your eyes perceive light. And we didn't do the simple-minded thing of just doing it linearly, because we would have seen a difference between 0 and 1 and 1 and 2 and maybe 4 and 5, but then we would not have seen a difference between 7 and 8 or 8 and 9 or 9 and 10, because it starts kind of saturating your eyes and you're not going to perceive that. Okay, guys, we got this problem done, and hopefully you guys were able to do this on your own. What your homework assignment is that if you did not do it with this exponential fashion, go ahead and do it, and try to do it from your notes without just copying me step by step. I want you to see if you kind of start with a blank bare minimum, can you do this by yourself? And then make a quick video, post it to YouTube, in your description link back to this video, and then in the comments down below leave a comment pointing to your homework solution so I can go over there and see if you guys know what you are doing, if you're actually learning this stuff. Because if you're not picking it up, then I need to really understand that so that I can maybe try to be more clear on things. Okay. So you're going to do that. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to teach you a little hardware and then teach you a little software. Teach you a little hardware, teach you a little software. So we've been working with the LED. That's going pretty well. What we're going to do next week is I'm going to teach you about conditionals. Like right now, the program just sits and runs. It just loops in the loop, and there's no decision-making point in there. What I'm going to show you next week is how to do conditionals, sort of like, well, if the number is lower than this, you want to do one thing. If it's greater than this, you want to do this other thing. So what we're going to be looking at is if statements and if clauses, and the way conditionals work with if statements and if clauses. Okay, then after that, we'll probably start working on some additional hardware. So we're going to learn a little software, a little coding. We're going to add some more complicated hardware. A little bit more complicated software programming, a little bit more complicated hardware. Because if I just sat and taught you all the coding, you would kind of get bored. If I just sat and taught you the hardware, then you're not going to have the programming skills to do it. So we're going to just try to step this thing up kind of little by little. Okay, guys, hopefully you're enjoying this tutorial series. Always want to give a big thank you to you guys who are supporting me at Patreon. It's your support and encouragement that is keeping this great content coming. You can also help me by giving me a thumbs up or leaving a comment down below. If you have not already subscribed to the channel, when you do, make sure you ring that bell so you'll get notifications when future lessons drop. And most importantly, share this video with other people, because the world needs more people thinking like an engineer and fewer people sitting around watching silly cat videos. Pull them a quarter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.